What's up, everybody? It's your boy here, Anthony, aka Mastermind here, Ohio Cannabis Live, here with Dr. Joe Simmons with the Ohio Herbal Clinic. And this is the Ask a Medical Marijuana Doctor series. And in this series, we're going to allow you to ask 3 questions. And we've already got 3 questions set up here for today. So if you have any new questions, make sure you ask those questions in the comments. Here we go. All right, we're here with Dr. Joe Simmons, a licensed Ohio medical marijuana doctor. And we're going to start with our first question, which is about desensitization. That's it, right?
You got it.
All right. Is it possible to lower tolerance after developing a high tolerance, not naturally high tolerance, by overusing because you didn't know what you were doing at first?
That's an interesting question. It's a relevant question. You definitely can develop a tolerance over time, and develop a higher need for your medication over time. And it is a situation where you can back off of the medication and kind of take a break, I guess I would say, kind of a holiday. And you can safely do that, and your receptors should downregulate themselves once you do something like that. So yes, it's possible to become kind of sensitized and require a higher amount of medication because you're becoming more tolerant of the medication. And yes, you could back yourself off of it and allow your receptors to kind of downregulate themselves over time and kind of reset. That should be a fairly safe process, especially if you're doing it slowly. Sometimes if people go kind of cold turkey, they can run into issues with nausea and vomiting and things of that nature. But it is a possibility for that to occur.
Okay. All right. On to the next question here, which is this one right here. That's good.
That's good.
Yeah. Vaping liquid versus vaping dry herb. Can you give us some pros and cons, health-wise, which is safer for long-term use?
So when you look at the vape crisis, that was all from vaping liquid. So I'll start with that because that's what was all over the news. I do have patients who stopped vaping dry herb because of the vape crisis, and they didn't realize that's just how the media portrayed it, that all vaping was problematic. But the vape crisis was caused by vaping liquid, the oil cartridge vaping, as opposed to vaping off of the dry herb. What I would say is, they're identifying some products that were added off the street. Usually, they're adulterated products coming off of the street, and they've added some things to these products that shouldn't have been added that are toxic to the lungs. One of the ones Ohio recognized, they put out a memo that said none of the processors can use vitamin E acetate in any of their oil cartridges. And so none of the processors had been using vitamin E acetate, but they definitely are not allowed to moving forward. So that's one of the substances that shouldn't be in any vape oil cartridges. And that's because of the people who died, a lot of them, I think over 30 of them, had vitamin E acetate in their autopsy specimens. So that's one of the issues. Now the question is, are there more? Is there more to come? I believe the CDC has asked people to just stop vaping for now until we really get to the bottom of things, and I don't think I've seen any reversal of them coming out with that statement. I encourage patients to choose other options. We have way too many other options available in terms of the oil cartridge vaping. So I would separate that out by itself. If I say if there's one means of ingestion I would steer people away from now, it would be oil cartridge vaping. Dry bud vaping, dry flower vaping, that wasn't involved in the vape crisis. There weren't any issues with that. So yes, that would be a safer method. But again, you're still inhaling a substance. And I just, from a medical standpoint, don't believe that inhalation is an ideal way to go if you have other options. I think anything being inhaled into the lungs, short of a steroid if you're an asthmatic or something of that nature, is going to be an irritant. And so then the question becomes, what happens with long-term lung irritation? And we don't really know the answer to that, not in randomized, controlled trials of these products. We don't have them. So I think if you can avoid the inhalation methods, that would be my preference, because there's other methods out there. First and foremost, I'm really big on tinctures.
I love tinctures.
So, all right, good.
Tincture guy.
Yeah, so I think that acts the most like traditional medicine. You're measuring a dose. You know exactly what you dosed yourself with. You know your milligrams. You can make adjustments to your milligrams, and it should be a really consistent product from bottle to bottle. And so I really like the tinctures. I think that's just more like traditional medicine. So that's where I would start people. And people who are new that come to my clinic, they're not coming in telling me they've been using flower forever. We talk about tinctures.
Yeah, I'm definitely a big fan of tinctures. Yeah, so I've done quite a few videos about those. So our third and final question here is, and I think this is a really good one, is when do you think we will have a doctor that can be a family doctor and also our medical marijuana recommending physician?
That's a great question. I was not part of setting up this program, but I could imagine when I think about how it was set up and the powers that be, when they looked at the program, I think that's who they ideally wanted to be the primary recommender, if I had to guess. I think they wanted people to fold this into their normal practice, whether it was a family doc, a neurologist for their MS patients or ALS or Alzheimer's patients, whether it was an oncologist for their cancer patients. I think they wanted the people who were already established in a practice to kind of add this into their practice. Mm-hmm. And so that would be ideal. Do I think there's someone out there? I do. I'm not aware. I can't mention any names offhand, but I think there are docs out there who are adding this into their practice. But I think that's probably being overshadowed by clinics like mine who that's all we do. I could see why a physician wouldn't want to add that into their practice. It takes time to get educated, personally educated, and then it takes time to educate patients. And that's a big difference. To do this properly, you need to educate patients and spend the time. And family docs are already inundated with issues, with dealing with medical problems with their patients, with time constraints, with insurance, and the billing. They are inundated. So it's hard for me to fathom that this could truly become more mainstream for them, especially if they can't get insurance to pay for that visit. Mm-hmm. So I think even though it would be ideal and it would be really beneficial to patients to have their known family doctor do this, I see why it's not happening. And I see why there's a need for clinics like mine where I can focus on doing stuff like this, and they can kind of, it's almost like a specialty at this point, because it's so time consuming.
All right. So this last question is not on the paper. This is a bonus question. This is my own personal question that I have for you. Okay. What made you decide to become an Ohio medical marijuana doctor?
I was in Illinois, St. Louis, Illinois area at the end of 2014, 2015. I was practicing over there in radiation. And Illinois had announced their medical program, and it was a no-brainer for me at that point. It's like, okay, how can I get my certificate to recommend for my patients? It wasn't because I had my own clinic. It wasn't because there was anything in it for me. It just was because I wanted my patients to have access. So being an oncologist over the years, looking at patients' medication lists, they're always on there, cannabis, marijuana, cannabis. Why are you doing that? It helps with my nausea from chemo. I have bone meds. It's helping with the pain. It helps me sleep. It helps me relax, takes away my anxiety. All these things I heard for 10 years in practice. So as soon as it was going to be available in Illinois, I wanted to become a recommender, but I wound up moving before that happened. So along the same lines, in 2016, House Bill 523 passes here, And so the opportunity just came about where I had the opportunity to purchase this clinic off of a family practice doctor that was retiring. The job I was in at the time, that didn't work out well for me, and the House bill passed. So all those three things came together to where now I'm doing what I think I've always been meant to do, which is to have my own practice and just kind of really run it and do it the right way. And so that's why I'm here.
All right, well, that was great. Well, thanks for watching, folks. And we will be doing more of these Ask a Medical Marijuana Doctor sessions. And make sure you check out Dr. Joe's website, ohioherbalclinic.com. And also we'll leave a link for his YouTube channel in the description. And make sure you hit that like, subscribe button if you like what you're hearing and seeing. And we'll see you next time. Peace.